welcome here to a very special edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our preview of the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. I am here picture in picture with South Florida Bulls head football coach Alex Golesh, heading into his second season with the team. He's no stranger to the broadcast, as we've had the opportunity to have him here many times in his first season, and now in year two. We're here with Coach Golesh. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And, you and I were talking, like I said, over last season about what you wanted to build, what you wanted to do, what you saw in this team. You ended year number one at South Florida with a winning record of 7-6, a blowout in the Boca Raton Bowl down in Florida at FAU Stadium. Just what you can say about speaking about what you were hoping for and talking with me about those pillars and those pieces that you were looking to put together, and then seeing it end in a winning season and a very clear victory in a bowl game.
Yeah, I think, we certainly laid a foundation for what we were trying to build. I think the end result, and we talked about this probably every time we've talked, the end result was what it was. And we try not to talk a whole lot about results.
Yeah.
With the understanding that that's what I'm evaluated by, and I get that. But for us, it was so important last year, still this year, to lay a foundation for how we do everything. And I think we certainly are on our way there. We're not perfect still, and that's what we're chasing every day is being perfect in our process, being perfect in how we attack everything we do. But it is so different in year two. You go into this spring and there's proof of concept in some capacity, right? You can point and say, man, we did this extremely well. This is how we got to get better, even though it was done extremely well. And we did this really poorly. Here's how we've got to improve this portion of it. And it's every facet of our program. We made changes after the season, everything from personnel to our process. And now we'll go into this year and continue to try to build on it.
Yeah, and you talk about those building blocks and those pieces that you're looking for and trying to get better every single day. Like you said, you try to not focus on the results. That's, as a coach, what, some people will look at and whatnot, but there's those wins that happen every day. I get frustrated when people call it coach speak, because the reality is, if you're not winning the day, you're not going to win those games. You're not going to be in the postseason. So what they call coach speak about these wins that don't happen on the win-loss record are the actual wins that help to bring about the win-loss record. So just to go a little bit into the background of it, how is South Florida winning the day? What are things that are happening with this program that you believe are leading to success, the quote unquote building blocks of what we don't see? Bring us into some of those things we don't see.
Yeah, I think it all starts with recruiting. I think it starts with the personnel and who you're bringing in, both the player and the person. But, it's no secret we had to get better, and we had to get better players. We had to get better culturally in terms of what was important inside our walls. And I think anytime you take over a program that hasn't had success, and for whatever reason, God's blessed me with the opportunity to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The theme is kind of the same. There's a lack of understanding of what's important. And so the shift of what's important within our program, and that's what you're continuously trying to build on, how our guys go about their daily business. So you recruit, and the recruiting getting turned up in terms of the type of player, the type of person. As that's turned up, now the expectations from within our walls have gone up, because anytime you're bringing in players, you're creating competition within your locker room.
Yeah.
And the competition at the end of the day is what breeds success. And so the process of which we go about our daily business, meaning how we're feeding our guys, how we're housing our guys. Now, how are our guys using their time? Are they choosing to come in here and get extra film, extra walkthroughs, extra jugs, extra meetings, or are they choosing to just hang out at home? And I think in winning programs, the extra time is spent on football. In losing programs, the extra time is spent on nonsense. And so that's what we've been working to shift, as you say, man, like the actual dive into the day-to-day it's what are you using your time for as a student athlete? And that's been the shift that I hope gets noticed on the field, is that our guys are more prepared than they've ever been, physically and mentally and emotionally, and in turn are playing faster, stronger on the football field. All of that being said, the camaraderie, the togetherness of the program is kind of the last step. So spent the entire winter, instead of doing traditional winter workouts, mat drills, old school 6 a.m.s, we spent the entire winter on developing leadership, developing leadership traits, forcing player-driven leadership,
Yeah.
and then spending a lot of time on communication, just truly battlefield communication, man. How do we communicate in the heat of the moment? Because at the end of the day, if you can get all 11 dudes on the same page, you got a shot. And so recruiting internally, our own process, leadership and communication, and now raising the standard in everything we're doing amongst all of those areas has been this summer's focus, and holding their feet to the fire on, this is how we communicate, this is how we lead, this is how we eat, this is how we sleep, this is how we greet each other when we come in here, this is how we keep our locker room looking. When we come into training, this is the emphasis of the training. And so it's just all been turned up, physically been turned up, recruiting been turned up. Our investment into the guys has gotten turned up in terms of externally. And does it result in wins and losses? I don't know, but certainly that's what you would hope.
Yeah, and like you said, building that culture of winning where it goes beyond, like you said, what are you doing with your, and I thought that was a great point. What are you doing with your extra time? That winning programs extra time is spent on football, losing programs, it's nonsense, like you had stated. I want to look at, as we're building this model of who's South Florida, who the Bulls are going to be for the future. Over the years and different coaching staffs, there was we're USF, call us USF. Then there was, we're South Florida, call us South Florida. So I want to dispel any thought on what it isn't. What is it? So when we're going out in the community and I'm hearing about the Bulls, is it USF? Is it South Florida? Let's finally set that record straight.
Yeah, so it's funny, Dan, when I got here, I asked the same question. Um, and I think that was maybe a little bit of the identity crisis in some ways. And I know it's been joked about, it's been talked about. I asked the same question. Are we South Florida, USF, the Bulls? What is our marketing, our branding? And you know what? We kind of talked about it, and then I finally put my foot down and said, what do you want it to be? And because to me, it is what it is. And I think as this place has shifted over the last year and a half, we've been the leader in that shift in terms of the branding and the marketing of what we are. So we're at the University of South Florida. We are South Florida. That's what we are.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going. So certainly USF for short, out there, but we're South Florida. When we talk about it, we promote it, we sell it, all the verbiage all around this entire building, all the verbiage around the new facilities that are going up is South Florida.
And you have had, when we look at South Florida and then we look at UCF and that rivalry that has been around for so many years, you had the opportunity to be on both sides of this rivalry. So you've seen it in the world of being at UCF and ironically being in the 2020 Boca Raton Bowl, and then with South Florida being in the 2023 Boca Raton Bowl. And in between that, you're with Tennessee and you're at the Music City Bowl in 2021. So at UCF with Josh Heupel and then over with Josh Heupel at Tennessee, what was the experience like working with Josh Heupel? And secondly, the experience of being on both sides of the UCF South Florida rivalry.
Yeah, Josh was really, really good for me. It was so different. I had been with Matt Campbell for so long, and saw him build two programs extremely well. We in a lot of ways have taken so much from my experiences with Matt, both at Toledo and Iowa State. And for me to get with Josh and see it done a different way, and see it done in a way where at UCF, Josh was able to take over a program that was coming off of an undefeated season. When we got to Tennessee, it was a different ball game, coming off of a lot of different other things. Certainly, the record wasn't good, but we walked into NCAA restrictions. We played that first season with 67 scholarship players, and watching Josh not only handle it but succeed within the restrictions that we had, throwing in the portal, throwing in right at the beginning of the NIL era, and watching him handle it. It was really, really powerful for me to see it done several different times now, different ways, with the end result being the same, which is a ton of success in terms of wins and losses. Offensively, for me to be able to grow with Josh and be able to for him, honestly, to invest a lot of time in me, to one, teach me what he wanted, and then I think for him to open up and allow me to run with it, encourage me, push me, challenge me every single day. It was the best growth that I could have ever asked for. I needed it. I was ready for it. And somebody like him, who has kind of lived different offensive lives himself, to give me the keys to that deal there at Tennessee, and really hang with me all the way through the ups and the downs, for us to be able to put together the best offense in the country there 2 years ago, prepared me offensively. But certainly watching him be able to build that at Tennessee was really fascinating. So super grateful to him. I think he has done an incredible job there, and will continue to do an incredible job, because he does it for the right reasons. It's all about the players. It's for the players. He listens to the players. He encourages them to speak, similar to Matt in that regard.
And here inside of the Heritage Hill Studios on Wake Up Call, in this preview of the South Florida Bulls with head coach of this football program, Alex Golesh, in year number 2. Is the UCF South Florida rivalry dead? I mean, I'm looking at the schedule and I see that, there are going to be Florida-based teams: Bethune-Cookman, Miami, Florida, and, Florida A&M, FIU, of course, within the conference of the American. There's FAU, but are we saying goodbye for good to UCF and South Florida?
Yeah, so I didn't ignore your question. I actually forgot you asked it. So that's on me. You know what? I thought that was the other part of the question, right? Was being on the other end of that rivalry. I thought it was an awesome rivalry. That Battle of I-4. You look at the ups and downs of the rivalry. It's amazing. One, the one-sidedness of it for a long time, then the flip of the one-sidedness, and then the last handful of years, just how close that game always was. I think for our fan bases, it was a really, really big deal. I think for the alums, for the students, that game was always a huge deal. I would love to be able to play that game every year. I was really hoping at the end of last year that we would get a chance to play in the bowl game. I think it's awesome for our universities. I think it's awesome for the state of Florida. It's got to be on our administration to do it. I'd be down to do it. And I did tell Gus a year ago, man, we can do it anytime. Just let me know, and even if it's unofficial, we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, and knowing that within the conference, though, inside of the American, with UCF going out and FAU coming in, that we have that opportunity here to still keep something in the state of Florida. You have success at FAU's campus when it comes to the Boca Raton Bowl. So, knowing that FAU and South Florida, at least, when we look at the scheduling model for the American and no divisions and how this kind of breaks down, having different rivalries that we can have some consistency with. And in the state of Florida, South Florida, FAU, what can this be in your opinion? Can this be something new, exciting when we look at Tampa and Boca Raton when it comes to this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, for me, it's really it's awesome to have somebody you're playing in state. I got a lot of respect for what those guys are building there. I think really similar to what we took over in terms of building it from the ground up. But to me, it's certainly always a good thing to have somebody in state that you're playing consistently. We'll see how it develops and what it becomes, but to me right now, our focus is on us, and that happens to be a game on our schedule.
And when you talk about the focus being on you, you spoke about the importance at winter time of getting to understand who your leaders are going to be. Offense, defense, special teams here in 2024. If you could provide some leaders offensively, defensively, and special teams wise, when we're looking at the identity of the Bulls right now, who are some of those pieces in the three phases of the game that you've been able to look to and say, these are extensions of our coaching staff? These are guys that we can really see stepping up this year or that we can lean on.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I'm probably most excited with is that we've got a really senior heavy team. We got a bunch of guys, really over 20 guys with the super senior piece. There's a bunch of seniors that could come back as well. So there's 26 of them that are seniors, with a handful of them. I think 6 of them can come back for another year. So we're an older team now. They haven't all been here for 5 years, so we've become old really quick with the addition of the portal guys and some junior college guys.
Yeah.
So just because you're old doesn't mean you have a bunch of really good leaders, but I do feel like our older guys are some of our best leaders. I do think the one offensively, that's really taken the keys to the thing and has done an incredible job is Byron Brown. And it's taken him. There's a guy that's not older. He's a redshirt sophomore, but it's taken him the year of playing and a year of understanding that, hey, dude, like everybody here trusts you. Everybody here looks up to you. Everybody here appreciates your toughness. So it all starts. I think if your quarterback can be an incredible leader, he can certainly generate a lot of momentum as a football team, certainly offensively. Offensively for us, Byram, Mike Lofton has done an incredible job. He's played a ton of football here, played the most snaps of anybody in the country. It helps that he's the center, so the communication piece. And Mike is a young guy that we recruited to UCF when I was there, and he's here now. So I feel like I've known Mike for a really long time because I have.
Yeah.
And I think guys look at him in a lot of ways as a leader. Sean Atkins, who has never wanted to take that role on, I think his success has kind of brought him out of his shell. He's done a really good job leading. Jaden Alexis has done a really good job leading. Naquan Wright, who last year was his first year with us too, he's done a really good job leading. So offensively, I feel like the older guys, we've got some other guys offensively that have played a ton of football, Zane Herring, Derek Bowman, that I think within their own rooms are trying to bring the level of play up. But I'm really proud of them. Defensively, it's a group that returns a ton of experience. We lost Daquan Evans, who I thought was a phenomenal leader from a year ago, took so much pride in a guy that's been here for 4 years. But Mac Harris has kind of taken the reins in terms of as a linebacker. I think it's easy to do so if you've got the personality, and Mac certainly does. Rashad Cheney comes back. I think the guys look at Rashad up front as a very vocal leader. He's played a ton of football here. In the back end, Ben Knox. Ben's a young man that we were really, really excited about after last spring. He's a guy that has played a bunch of football and then last August hurt his knee. And it was amazing. You always know what kind of leader somebody is by when you don't have them,
Yeah.
what the morale of the team is. And I think when Ben went down, it was kind of like one of those, like, wow, like that's our guy. That's a self-made cat that made himself into what he is. And it broke my heart. It certainly broke everybody's heart here. Well, Ben's back. Ben's had an incredible offseason. And his leadership, it's really quiet, but it's incredible what he's done and how guys listen to him. I think from a special teams perspective, we've got a 30-year-old punter who is kind of in charge of that specialist group. But the special teams portion, I'm really curious to see who ends up taking the reins. It's always a guy that maybe isn't playing a whole lot of offense or defense and takes so much pride in the team's part. So we'll see how that develops as it goes. But Andrew, certainly from a specialist standpoint, I mean, he's literally older than a lot of our coaches. So he's taken that role on, and I've been proud of him there.
Alex Golesh here with us, South Florida Bulls head football coach on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. And as we look to this team and look to, like you said, that leadership, that veteran experience coming back with this team, I know that this is a new season. I know that the big time victory that you had in the Boca Raton Bowl happened last year, but is there a truth to the fact that momentum in a game like that and seeing guys get experience that maybe didn't get it, seeing guys that stepped up in that game that nationally got exposure that maybe they weren't having before, is there something to be said that even though it was months ago, that momentum can come into the spring, come into the summer, and come into the fall, that South Florida knows what they're capable of? Is there any truth of connecting what happened to what can happen?
Yeah, I think momentum is real within a program. I think, like I mentioned it earlier, I think proof of concept is really what you're looking for in year one and year two, um, to drive recruiting. I think in terms of within our walls, because we are working so hard to be process driven, you try not to point to, man, like, well, we won that one, so we should be pretty good. I think when you start pointing to, man, well, we got everybody back, so we should be pretty good, or you try to justify the front end of why things should be the way they should be because of something else.
Yeah.
I think momentum is real externally. I think momentum is real internally, where, man, you got a little bit of success, you got a little bit of confidence. I think you hit it on the head, Dan. I think just the guys truly understanding what it is to prepare. I think we went into last season and nobody really knew, I'm saying within our walls, if we were going to be any good. And we had moments that were really high, and we had moments that were about as bad as you can imagine. And so I think when you can say, all right, there's proof of concept that, hey, when we do certain things, we're able to score points or we're able to stop people. But I think as long as we continue to be process driven, it's irrelevant what the end result was. It's irrelevant that the bowl game was what the bowl game was. It was awesome. It was a fun way to end the season. It was awesome for our fan base. I think externally, it certainly is easy to point and say, man, these guys are getting better. We need our donor base to continue to understand that, because the NIL piece of it is real and the momentum there is real. And so I think externally more so than internally, it certainly helps to point to something. But I think within our own walls, the one thing you get out of it is there's a confidence, and confidence comes from preparation. And then the preparation goes right back to exuding confidence. And I think if there's anything tangible there, it's a lot of guys got a lot of experience. A lot of guys now understand what it really takes. They've been able to adjust their process to, again, turn up the level of confidence we can go into games with the understanding that nothing is promised. And we had a team meeting last night. I had a long conversation with our guys about, like, yeah, our guys feel like they're working extremely hard, harder than they've ever worked. Does that guarantee wins? It actually doesn't. And so again, we just worry about ourselves, because at the end of it, you don't control it. All you can control is what we do internally.
Yeah, and to look at, the bigger picture, and I appreciate that answer. When we look at the American athletic as a whole, you've experienced through multiple programs the leadership of Mike Oresco, who is the only commissioner that's ever been in the American. Two-part piece here. What can you say about Mike Oresco from your seat? And what do you think of Tim Pernetti and what leadership he brings?
Yeah, I thought Mike, even from the outside in, and and then being in the conference and then leaving the conference and coming back in the conference, I thought Mike did a phenomenal job of not taking a back seat to anybody. I think he pushed the narrative of Power Six. I think he pushed the narrative of, listen, we're going to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I think the New Year's Six bowl games were a huge part of that. I think Cincinnati making it to the playoff a couple of years ago was a huge part of him being able to point and saying, man, like, we are not taking a back seat to anybody. I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of work that went into that. I think there was a lot of passion that he led with. And I enjoyed the time I got spending over the last year getting to know him, and respected the leadership in terms of, man, like we're gonna go attack this. And I don't care what anybody says, and I don't care what anybody says on social media. I don't care if there's a meme out. We ain't taking a backseat to nobody. I respected that. I thought his vision was phenomenal. I thought his work ethic was phenomenal. Tim, the resume speaks for itself in terms of his background, both being in a leader of an athletic department and then the media space. I think both of those things right now are monumental in terms of driving revenue,
Yeah.
which everybody knows that's what the name of the game is right now, is you have to drive revenue. Without knowing Tim outside of the meeting, in our head coaches meetings, it certainly seems like he has hit the ground running and has a incredible vision as well. As a leader, I can't speak on yet, but in terms of understanding why we went that direction as a conference, understanding that revenue driving is the name of the game, it certainly makes a ton of sense. But I look forward to getting to know him, and certainly seems like since the day he started, there's been no slowing down.
I'm going to hit two things quick because second thing, rapid fire, I want to make sure we play. But I do want to make a note of this because I've talked about it. The on-campus stadium and football operations center coming to the University of South Florida. We know that you're at Raymond James Stadium, the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Having a home at home, just what that's going to do, what it's doing right now in recruiting, in the NIL space, in the transfer portal, the fact that you can say, hey, this is what our future is, that we're literally evolving. We're making history at this school. Just what that can do for South Florida stepping forward.
Yeah, so Raymond James is the home of the Bulls and the Buccaneers. We share the stadium, so I'm gonna fix you there.
Yeah.
But I think it's something you can point to say, beyond anything else, something you could point to say, man, that's the next step for us as a program. It's something you could point to and say, this is the investment that this university, this alumni base, our donor base, and our board of trustees are making to this university. We're investing more money in football than we ever have. We've invested more money in the last 18 months than we did in the first 25 years in the program. Huge reason why I wanted to be here was because I knew the investment was real and it was going to continue to go until we got to where we want to go. And so the stadium is incredible in terms of being able to get that built. I think the football complex is going to be second to none in the country. We finally just signed off on the last part of the plans, them allowing myself and our staff to be involved in the building of that. We literally have gone back and forth on this building for 18 months in terms of making sure it's the exact right thing for our student athletes. I'm so excited for them to release the fly through and the actual renderings of the inside. I've seen it. I'm excited for them to put it out, because I think when you see it, you're going to be like, holy smokes, this is, when I tell you no stone unturned, when I tell you they've shortcutted nothing, it is going to be a state of the art from a player services standpoint, to recovery, to nutrition, to sports med, to strength, to meetings, to like, it's an elite building. And I'm more excited about that than the stadium, but I understand that the stadium is an exciting piece. I think the one thing about the stadium that is it an end all to say, man, this is the next step to where we got to get to? I don't think it is. There's plenty of teams in conferences all over this country that share a stadium. But I do think for us, where we are as a program, where we are as a city, it's time. I think for our fans to be able to come back to campus, we led the league in attendance last year. Well, all those 38,000 a game are not coming on campus every week. And I think what this campus, just in the last 10 years, what's happened here, this is the most beautiful campus I've ever been on, between the palm trees and the history, and it's an incredible place. It's beautiful, it's well taken care of. So to be able to bring alums back to campus, I think is absolutely huge. I think our basketball program did that this winter, selling out the whole second half of the season, bringing people back here. I think it can only help. You hit on it from a NIL side. I think just people bringing their pride back here. I think from a student-based standpoint too, Dan, there's something really cool about college football when on Saturday morning you see students walking over from the frat houses, from the sororities, from the dorms. Like, that's college football. Whatever they got going on Saturday morning and then ending up in the stadium, that's really, really cool to me as a college football purist. And so I think it's huge. It's monumental. I think it's only going to allow us to take the next step as a program. And I'm excited. They've started shuffling stuff around out there. Keep looking out there because it's going to be right out here, but they've started to move things around. It'll be awesome to have a crane out there here sooner than later.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, we were going to do rapid fire. I know you probably have to go here in a second, but I saw Brian pop up here. But if you want to do one apiece, we can do that really quick because I want to respect your time. So, do you have one rapid fire for me?
Dan, I got you on rapid fire. Come on, dog.
Okay, go ahead. So, your first question for me.
So I'm asking you the questions.
You're going to ask me, and then I'll ask you back.
Okay. Man, I wasn't prepared for that. Your favorite coach besides me in this conference to talk to?
Favorite coach to talk to besides you? That's difficult. You put me on the hot seat right now, for real, for real. I don't know if I can. I like everybody individually for like.
Oh, Dan, come on.
Listen, okay, I'm gonna say this. I like all the different personalities because they do speak to me, and I have a lot of respect for honestly just speaking with people. But I'm gonna pick this. I'm gonna say Brian Newberry of Navy, and I'm gonna say it because my grandfather was in the Navy and his naval hat is right off camera here. So I'm going to say Navy because of everything it is beyond football and because of the morals and values that Brian and I share. But the honest answer is I enjoy all the personalities. My question back to you, Alex, is who's your favorite reporter to talk to besides me?
Man, I'll go with Pete Thamel. I enjoy his insight.
Okay. All right. What's your last one for me? Got one more.
Man, I wasn't prepared, Dan. I'm embarrassed by it. You've studied this league up and down. Your favorite, the matchup you're looking forward to the most next year.
Matchup I'm looking forward to the most. There's a bunch. I think for me, I'm excited to see. I don't know if I could pick one of these. I'm excited to see the rivalries. I'm excited to see the the in-state what they're trying to build inside of the American. And to be completely honest, I am more than ecstatic that Army is in. I mean, it's called the American. Navy's already there. Army's there. Air Force, you're on alert. But I think having Army and Navy within the same conference. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to being in Arlington, Texas and seeing Army walk in because my other grandfather was a part of, the United States Army. So I think that's really going to mean something. And I know Army Navy is what it is whether it's in a conference or not. But I think knowing that those two teams have that game every year and they're both representing the American, which means a lot to me. I think that's definitely circled for me. My
Gotcha.
my last one for you, Alex. I'm going to go to food. So I love Florida. It's the second hub of my company. It's a second home for me. I've been to Tampa, St. Pete many times. Where is the place? Like if I came down to visit you and you were like, okay, we're going to go grab some food. We're going to tour campus. Where are you bringing me to eat and why?
Yeah, I would probably take it to Meat Market down in Hyde Park.
Okay. Meat Market in Hyde Park. Plain and simple. Is there something you get there?
It's an incredible, it's a steak spot,
Okay.
great scenery, great food. That's my spot.
Coming from Alex Golesh here as we preview the South Florida Bulls and their football program. Alex, as always, I appreciate the time. I'll see you down in Texas soon, and God bless as always, and congratulations on the work that you're doing.
Thanks, you appreciate you.
Appreciate it.